Hello everyone, hope everyone is doing good. So welcome to another video of reproduction in plants. So we were discussing about the how double fertilization will take place in detail. So in the previous video we saw the summary recap, the animation of how the pollen tube will come through the micropylar end and it will fertilize the egg. So the fertilization will take place twice. That is double. That is why we will call it as double fertilization. Once the fertilization takes, what is the further development? So that we are going to see in this video. So double fertilization and development of the endosperm. So let's begin with the double fertilization. So what is double fertilization? Basically, it's the events, the stages that will take place in the fertilization process. So as we saw in the previous video, the pollen grains will land onto the stigma, step number one. Then we saw that the pollen grain, when they are ready to get, to fertilize the ovary, they will be in this generative cell and the tube cell form, vegetative and the generative cell. So they will land onto the stigma, they will start germinating and it will grow into the style. So they will start growing. As you can see in this diagram, so the pollen tube is growing. Yes, it is growing and then it is reaching the micropylar end. Yes. Okay. Two sperm nucleus will travel through the pollen tube to the ovary. So two nucleus you can see, one and two over here. They will travel to the ovary. Okay. Out of them, one will fuse with the egg cell. So the one sperm will fuse with the egg cell. Okay. And this will form a diploid zygote. Okay. So it's the male gamete plus the female gamete, that is one of the sperm cell and the egg cell. The egg cell together, they now have come together, fusion has taken place and the zygote will be formed. Now obviously the zygote will be what? Diploid in nature, 2n. This male gamete is also n and the female gamete is also n in nature. So there were two male gametes. Remember, two sperm nuclei will travel through this whole pollen tube. So one fused with the egg cell, the another will fuse with the central nucleus. Okay, remember in the middle the two nucleus which were there, which further fuses into 2n. So one more n will join and it will result into 3n. It will result into 3n. This is the second fertilization that is happening. This is the second fertilization that is happening. Hence, we will call it as double fertilization. So in angiosperm, fertilization happens twice. Why? We will just see in the next slide. Other sperm nucleus will fuse with the two nuclei in the central cell and it will form a diploid endosperm. Okay, now what is endosperm? We know that the chromosomal condition will become 3n. What is endosperm? We will just see in a short while. So make a note of everything. Make a note of your doubt if you have anything. Okay, so step number one, pollen grain will come and sit on the stigma. It will be in the generative and the tube cell form. They will start germinating. It will start moving towards the entry point, that is towards the micropylar point. So here you can see over here towards the micropylar point. So two male gametes are there. One will fuse with the egg cell and the other will fuse with the central polar nuclei. Two-time fertilization will happen. One will result into diploid zygote, which is also known as syngamy. This type of fusion we call it as syngamy. Okay, the fusion of the sperm and the egg to form a diploid zygote. This process is known as syngamy. Okay, and the another fertilization will then take place. The other sperm will fuse with the two nucleus. The condition will be 3n and it will form something known as diploid endosperm. Now basically endosperm is the nutritive part of the growing embryo. So the egg which got fertilized with the one sperm, this diploid zygote which is formed, this will develop into embryo. this will develop into the embryo. It will further grow into the individual plant. So this embryo is protected, or the nourishment which is required by this growing embryo is taken from the endosperm. Endosperm will act as a nutritive tissue for the growing embryo, the diploid zygote. Okay, so hence the function of the endosperm is to provide the nutrition to the diploid zygote. So double fertilization, one is the actual diploid zygote, which will further develop into the seed and the fruit, and which will can again bear seeds, and then it will lead to a growth of another new plant. And the other fertilization which resulted second time, that will give nourishment to the first fertilization products. Okay, so the entry of the pollen tube can happen through different position. You can see over here in the diagram. So if the pollen tube enters directly from the opening, so it will be that type of entry will be known as sporogamy. If the pollen tube is entering, breaking the chalaza from here, if it is breaking from here and then it is coming, at the end it will gain entry from here only, through the micropylar end only. But the break opening, the entry started from here, chalaza. So chalazogamy, or sometimes through integuments from side. It might just break open, make a pore, and the pollen tube might gain an entry, and then finally it will come at this position. So this will be known as mesogamy. So path of pollen tube entry into the ovule, either directly through the pore, directly to the opening, porogamy, or through the chalaza, chalazogamy, or through the integument, that is mesogamy. So the entry of the pollen tube can be out of these, any one out of these three places: chalasa, or the micropyle, or the integuments, and hence the three terms that are given to them. Okay, so this is how they will fuse. So this is the pictorial representation of double fertilization. Yes, so the pollen grain sitting, coming down, gaining an entry. You can see the two blue nucleus serving as two male nucleus. You can see the 8 nucleus over here. These are the antipodals. These are the two synergids. This is the egg cell. This is the polar nucleus. Okay. One egg cell fuses with the one male gamete fuses with the egg cell, that is the release of the male gamete, or you can call it as sperm cells. Another egg cell will fuse with the these two, so they will come together actually. So this will result into 3 endosperm. This will further grow into endosperm, and now the zygote. This fusion resulted into formation of the diploid zygote. So this is how double fertilization looks like, a pictorial representation. Very important concept with respect to board point of view. You should be knowing this. Okay. Now the zygote will further develop into the embryo, which will further develop into the seed, flower, fruit, and then the fruit will bear seed, and then the seed again will be responsible for giving rise to a new plant. So the cycle goes on. Okay, and the endosperm will serve as the nutritive tissue. It will provide nutrition to the growing embryo, the zygote that develops. Okay, so this is the summary of the whole event of double fertilization. Number 1, non-motile male gametes are carried through the hollow pollen tube known as symphonoogamy. This terminology you need to know. When male gametes are carried through the pollen tube, then fusion will happen. Male gamete with the female gamete, zygote will be formed. It is known as syngamy, which we just discussed. Then second fertilization will happen of the second male gamete. So the triple fusion, that is a 3N stage, will be resulted by the fusion of second haploid male gamete with the diploid secondary nucleus, which is there in the center, and they will form the endosperm. Okay, this will develop into primary endosperm. Okay, and the zygote will develop into the embryo. So the 3N is the nutritive tissue, nutritive part of the whole fruit, and the zygote is the actual uh, giving rise to embryo. Okay. So syngamy is kind of a type of generative fertilization, means this will give rise to new individual seed, and then that will be responsible for giving rise to new plants. Whereas the triple fusion, the 3N, it is more of a vegetative fertilization because it is just providing nutrition to the growing embryo. So in double fertilization, both the male gametes will participate. There is one egg cell, so one male gamete with one egg cell, the another male gamete with the polar nuclei to form the endosperm, primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, and hence the whole process is doubly fertilized. That is why we call them as double fertilization. So what is the importance of double fertilization? We need to understand that. Why double fertilization needs to happen? So number one is that it makes sure double angiosperm plants, they carry out double fertilization to ensure, to make sure the plant, the parent plant is producing seed. Parent plant is producing seed with a food storage. So the endosperm is acting as a nutritive tissue, means what? It is giving food to the seed. Okay. So this will happen only when the egg is fertilized. Okay. So the first important point of double fertilization is that the parent plant will invest in production of a seed which will come with a food storage, and this will happen only as a result of fertilization. So a seed is formed only as a result of fertilization. So this is one of the major benefit of double fertilization, that you get a seed after fertilization. Okay, after the egg is fertilized, then the parent plant will, the endosperm will develop into a food storage for the egg. Okay, diploid zygote will develop into an embryo which will further develop into a new plant. So this will promote development of the embryo, and the embryo then grows into, consequently it will develop into a new plant. Another important importance of double fertilization. And the angiosperm carry out double fertilization because the double fertilization, that is the triploid primary endosperm nucleus 3N, which comes as a result of double fertilization, which will act as a self-nutritive endosperm tissue for the growing embryo. Okay, so this is one more benefit of double fertilization for the plant. And afterwards the diploid zygote is the retained the diploidy of the plant. So it will restore the diploid condition by fusion of haploid male gamete with the haploid female gamete through syngamy. So this is a sexual reproduction which will take place in the angiosperm. And also this at the end will avoid multiple uh, fertilization events, which will avoid formation of multiple embryos. Poly means multiple, embryo means more than one embryo. So more than one embryo will not be formed, because if more than one embryo will be formed, then they will not get enough nutrition to the growing. The embryo will not have enough nutrition for its growth and development. So to avoid this problem, double fertilization ensures that one diploid zygote is formed and one triploid primary endosperm nucleus is formed. This develops into the embryo, which will further give rise to a new plant. This develops into the nutritive part of the embryo, which will of the fertilization event, which will help in the embryo development. So these are the importance of double fertilization, which is shown by angiospermic plants only. So this is all about double fertilization. Make a note of your doubts, go through the points, and if you have any doubt, we can come up in the live class. So thank you. This is all for the double fertilization. In the next video, we are going to discuss about the endosperm, types of endosperm that the plants can develop. Okay, so the plants can have different types of endosperm development. So that we will see in the next video. Thank you. Bye. Take care.